Hello everyone and welcome back to the JP on Comms YouTube channel for another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at my pre-season ratings for every contracted player at Maidstone United from this pre-season so far. Now, of course, we are less than 1 week away from the start of the National League South campaign for the 23-24 season. If you are new to the channel or you're a returning viewer who's not already subscribed, then please do so. We're very close to 200, which of course is a very big landmark for myself and the lads involved in the channel. So please do subscribe and do like the video down below if you're not already. But let's avoid that for now and crack on with the video. We're going to be taking a look first of all at Harley Earl, the only contracted Maidstone United goalkeeper at the moment. And for me, I'm going to be using 6 as an average point for the rating. So if they do get a 6, that is a pretty average pre-season rating for me. So I'm going to give Harley Earl a 7. Reason for that, I think the expectation from Harley was not really there at the start of pre-season. Obviously, knowing at the start of the campaign he knew he was going to be number 2 choice. That may have changed now. Obviously, we haven't got a goalkeeper in yet. We're less than a week away now from the Slough Town game at the Gallagher. Harley's the only contracted goalkeeper we've got, so he may well get a start on the first day of the season. I've been impressed with his distribution. I've been impressed with his confidence. I've been impressed by his vocals in the box as well. Not his singing ability, but his clear calls, his instruction towards defenders. I think that does contribute effectively to helping us defend set pieces a little bit better and organisation of the defence. But for me, I think to bump that rating up a bit, we just need to see a bit more in terms of composure when it comes to maybe rushing out of the box a little bit. That has caught me out a couple times. Obviously, there's not too much else he could improve on. So I think 7 is a pretty decent rating for someone who has featured relatively heavily in this pre-season so far. Now we're going to go on to the defenders, and it's going to be a very big ticket item for me for Maidstone this season. That's going to be Reece Greenidge. I'm straight up just going to give him a 9 out of 10. I think he's been sublime. Can't really think of where he's put a foot wrong. I love how he just glides with the ball. He's taken the ball past attackers and midfielders so often in this pre-season. His ball carrying ability is very underrated, as well as his defending capability. Very tall, very agile, very long legs, which help him go gadget a ball away from an oncoming attacker. And I think he's just looked fantastic. I really enjoy watching Reece Greenidge play, so a 9 out of 10 for him. Gavin Hoyt as well is another player who I've been really impressed by, and I'm going to give Gavin an 8.5 out of 10. I think Gavin as well has looked back to his best. I said this a couple times on previous videos and of course on social media that I think we've got our old National South Gavin back. Obviously last season was very disruptive with injuries and things like that, and a much higher quality level of football, which is quite tough for some players to keep up with. And I think Gavin did struggle a little bit with that intensity, not as much as some. He was still very effective last season, but he looks a different class in this pre-season, so an 8.5 out of 10 for me. Next player is going to be George Fowler. Been impressed with him as well. Obviously last season's player of the year. For me, that bar is going to be a little bit higher for George, just because I know how good he can be. I think compared to what I would have been expecting from him in this pre-season, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I think he's been above average for sure, but there's been a few times where it's just been a couple of moments where the challenge might not have gone in, or he's still trying to get up to speed a little bit in the earlier stages of pre-season, and that's perfectly understandable. I mean, obviously very tough year last year, obviously a long summer off, so yeah, not at all knocking that. 7 is a very respectable score, but I think just seen a little bit more communication at the back at times, a little bit more organisation of that back line for someone who was very influential last season, and that rating would shoot right up for me. Rafe Brown, I think as well, has had a very good pre-season. Obviously, again, another one who missed a lot of last season through injury, did come back towards the end. Looking very good, looking very sharp, very athletic, very quick, back to his old ways. For me, I'm going to give Rafe a 6.5. I want to see a little bit more in terms of attacking outlet from Rafe, using that speed a little bit more in a similar sense to what we saw from Ryan Galvin last season. A little bit of an improvement on maybe ball delivery and chance creation, I think that just gives us another little outlet there. That may not be the system we're playing, of course, so I can't necessarily put all that blame on him, but sometimes I just think there's a position there where he finds himself a little bit further up the pitch and he could maybe take someone on a little bit more often than not. So 6.5, again, another respectable above average score. Cheat as an olim is, of course, the last defender on the list, and I'm not actually going to give him a rating. Don't really think it's fair. Didn't play a great deal in pre-season, so it's going to be a not available for me for Chi. Now, taking a look at the midfielders, we're going to start things off with Sam Corn, newly appointed vice captain of the club. And for me, I think Sam has had a 7 out of 10 pre-season. Another player who I think has been above average. He's looked very good, very high intensity, and from what we've seen in games, that's not unfamiliar territory for Sam. He's looked impressive in that front. I just want to see a little bit more attacking output that we saw from him in the past. Obviously, a very good goal scorer. I think he got 10 the last time he was in the South. If he can get anywhere near that this season, that's a great campaign, but yet to score this pre-season, I do believe. And I want to see a little bit more from that, a little bit more front foot action from Sam to get those ratings back up. Next player is going to be another Sam in the midfield, at least in this pre-season. That's going to be Sam Bone. For me, I'm going to give a 6.5. I think at times he's looked perhaps a little bit unfamiliar in the role that he's playing, which makes sense because, of course, he played the majority of last season for Maidstone in a central defensive position. Obviously moved up the pitch a little bit into what he, as apparently claimed, is one of his favourite positions on the field, prefers to play in a more defensive midfield role. But I think at times he's just looked a little bit perhaps caught out. And again, that's not necessarily all his fault. Obviously finding himself a little bit further up the field, maybe not as much time as he had in the past. I think last season we saw a good passing range from Sam, very good calmness on the ball as well, which I think has lacked just a tiny bit in this pre-season whilst he's getting back up to speed. I don't doubt he's going to have a successful season wherever he plays on the pitch. Obviously, we know he can play anywhere across the back four and the midfield. So I think he's going to have a good season, slightly above average pre-season for me, for Sam Bone. Next is Devontae Arancibia. Now, I think Devontae has had quite a bit of expectation on him this pre-season. Obviously known last season as a bit of a goal scorer, a bit of a playmaker as well in the midfield for Tunbridge. And I think he's done all but that really in pre-season. Unfortunately, hasn't got himself a goal to my knowledge just yet, but I don't doubt it's going to come. He's looked very good, very sharp, very quick, very, very technical on the ball, and very, very quick as well in beating players. Not only that, but tracking back as well. Very happy with what I've seen from Devontae. I think to get that 9 or 10, just maybe a goal or two every now and then, maybe an influential assist or something like that in a game, is going to contribute to a 9 or 10 rating, which means I'm going to give him an 8 for this pre-season so far. I like what I see from him as a new player to the team. Next on the list is going to be Connor Kelly. Connor Kelly obviously coming in throughout pre-season as a trialist, played a few games, impressed massively. He's been very, very influential in the games he's played, already picked himself up an assist and 2 pre-assists, the guy who plays the ball to the assister in just a couple of games. So I'm really, really impressed with him. I think he's more than earned that contract offer from the club, and I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. I think he's been on par with our best performers this pre-season. I can't really fault anything he's done, besides perhaps a few sloppy passes in the Folkestone Invicta game from what I saw. But then to make up for that, he chased the ball down and won it back. So really, really good all-round player. I think just to get that 10 out of 10, see him score a couple of times would have been great against Folkestone and Lewis. So close. Just wrap one round the post against Folkestone, and of course hit the post against Lewis. But besides that, flawless pre-season from him. Next is going to be Bivesh Gurung. Now, I do feel a little bit bad for Bivesh because I've given him a 5.5. Now, it is slightly below average, but I am basing that off what I know that Bivesh can do. And unfortunately, he has been moved around quite a bit this pre-season. And amongst myself and the lads on the channel, we know Bivesh as sort of that utility man, the guy who can play any position really. And I think he's obviously better in the midfield, but has of course played a bit of a right wing back or a right back role at times in this pre-season, something which, to be honest, I don't think was too successful last year, and I'm not quite sure why we keep doing it when I know he's more than capable of putting in good performances in midfield. Obviously, we saw a couple games last season. I think one was against Aldershot away, where he was very, very good in midfield, very good indeed. I just don't think he's lived up to that quite this pre-season, but I don't think that's all he's doing. So I expect more from Bivesh in the season to come. So 5.5 from me at the moment. Last player is going to be Perry Iandolo. I'm going to give him a 6. I'm going to give him an average 6. I don't think he's set the world alight. He's more than capable of scoring goals and setting goals up. Haven't seen that in this pre-season so far. But he's been a very good ticker over at the ball, been very good in helping dominate midfields. He's very good and composed on the ball. Just need to see a little bit more in terms of attacking outlet for me from Perry to bump that rating up a little bit more. Now we're going to the forwards. So we'll start off with Sol Angel Smith. For me, I'm going to give him an 8.5 out of 10. My reason for that is that, again, another player who's been out injured for a long time, and a player who's got a lot of expectation from me personally and the fan base. Obviously, we've had him for a year now, haven't seen what he's got to offer in a Maidstone shirt yet, but this pre-season I think he's looked very bright. Obviously picked up that goal the other day against Folkestone, and has been quite instrumental in setting up some goals in other games too. Looks very, very dangerous every time he's on the pitch. Very high intensity player as well, and always looking to make those runs forward, which I think is a very key attribute that we will benefit from a lot in this season. So an 8.5 for Sol from me. Again, more goals and assists, a bit more end product, would have bumped that up a little bit higher. Next is going to be Lamar Reynolds, a 7.5 rating. I'm going to give Lamar, I think if we'd seen what we'd seen against Folkestone and against Lewis throughout all of pre-season, he would have easily been a 9 out of 10. I think he had a slightly slow start to pre-season. Those first couple games didn't look as sharp as he does now. I think he looks really, really good now at this tail end of pre-season, and that's why I'm going to give him a 7. I think if we'd seen a higher level of consistency from him throughout pre-season, certainly would have been right up there, but I've got no doubt he's going to be an impressive player for us this campaign. Next on the list is going to be Razak Coleman de Graaf. Now, I'm going to give Razak a 7.5 as well. I think he's very bright. Again, I want to see a little bit more consistency, a little bit more game time, a little bit more end product. I think if he picked himself up a couple of goals along the way, we would have been seeing him a little bit higher up in these ratings. I think in Razak, we've got someone who's a very, very bright player, someone who's going to contribute very, very much so to the goals and assists that we're going to see throughout this season. And I think if he continues what we've seen in this pre-season so far, he's going to be a very influential player for Maidstone in this campaign. The next player is going to be Levi Amanchi. Now, I'm going to give Levi a 7.5 as well. For me, had a very slow start to pre-season. Obviously, the first couple games wasn't quite there in his output. A lot of people were giving him a lot of criticism. I was one of the ones who will staunchly defend him right until the end, because I knew that he had more in him. I mean, he's just come back from the off-season. I mean, you're not going to see him busting a lung in the first 45 minutes of pre-season with only a week in training. And I think towards the end of this pre-season, he's looked very, very sharp. We've seen a good couple goals from him the weekend against Lewis. We've also seen goals throughout pre-season in a couple other games as well, and I'm very, very happy with what I've seen from him. I think a 7.5 is quite fair. I think if we'd seen just, again, I understand why, but I think if we'd just seen a little bit more from him in those earlier stages of pre-season, we would have seen him bumping up in those ratings. But got no doubt Levi is going to be a top player for us this season. Very, very much looking forward to seeing what we've got from him coming up. And the last player is going to be Ogo Obi. Now, Ogo, of course, another player who was coming in as a trialist, and I think he's looked very, very bright. Someone who's certainly earned that deal with the club. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 just because in a short period that we've had him, 3 games, 3 goals, 3 games, 2 goals, but he's looked very, very sharp. I've been very impressed with him. Obviously, he's impressed behind the scenes, but he also adds a different dynamic to what we've seen in the front line. Very interchangeable. Him being on the field allows us to switch things up a bit. He can move out to the right. Sol could come in. Lamar could come in. That sort of thing. And I'm just very impressed with how the team looks as a whole, as a different dynamic compared to having that sole striker up front. I've always been a fan of the interchangeable front line. I think he contributes very effectively to that. I don't think he's yet to have a poor performance. And I think we're going to have a very, very bright player in Obi as well. So that is going to wrap up my ratings in pre-season so far for the team. Of course, do stay tuned to the channel for all the latest updates surrounding Maidstone United. Do subscribe to the channel as well, as I mentioned at the start. So close to 200, and it really means a lot to have your support. So thank you all so much for watching if you made it this far in the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.